Hey, good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson of the Ring and Hire Show. Hey, tonight's subject is one of my favorite, is exit interviews. It's a great topic, and a lot of people really take heart to this question here with it. So, be right back. All right. Hey, good evening, everyone. Hey, Anne Marie, I see my cousin's there. She's always watches the show. Hey, listen, tonight it's a good subject, is exit interviews. And first, I wanted my opinion on it, respectively. Exit interviews, if they're utilized properly, let's just say if you actually complete it, you've gone through your managers, HR, you've done all that, you decided to leave. If you had issues, did you say anything, or would you put it on there? That's where the information could be used in a good way. Because if some people continue to leave, you got to be saying like, wow, what's going on here? But if you're not doing an exit interview, a lot of people just don't want to do it because I didn't do one. You believe sometimes that it doesn't really matter. And they can go both ways. Remember that. So, I mean, do you tell the truth? If you've been with a company for 10 years and you're leaving, on LinkedIn, you see everybody, hey, I'm sad to leave, but I'm excited, right? But did you do the exit interview? Now, I'm going to say, hey, Rob, how you doing? There's Mr. Rob. Oh, he ought to love this subject. But I'm going to give you an example. If you're with a company for 10 years, you start to have problems with that bad boss. You got problems with that manager, and things started to change. Just started to change. Who's this we got here? Hey, Dave, how you doing? There's work hard. There he is. But things start to change on you, so you don't know what to do. You start getting stressed. You start looking for work. You can't take it. You've told your supervisor nothing's been done. You feel that it's not your problem. So, hey, Bernard, welcome. Good evening. So, if you feel that it's not your fault, you're holding it back, right? You don't want to go to HR, but you know what? You need to go to human resources. Human resources, they're always there. They used to scare the living hell out of me, and they still do, because you don't get called in to human resources for saying, hey, you're doing a great job. It doesn't work that way. I'm just being honest. I've never seen that in years of, Dave, come on in, sit down. I mean, meanwhile, your hands are shaking. It's like, what you do? But seriously, and I say this truthfully, if you are having issues at work, listen, if you've been there for a while and it's for one reason, I look back at sometimes of my own careers. I wish I would have said more things. There he is. Hey, Chris, there he is. There's a man. And I wish I would have said more. If your manager cannot figure your issue out that you're having, or maybe you're having problems with employees, and if they don't satisfy, go to HR. That if you have a good human resources department, listen, they will listen to you, and they have to be on both sides. They are not just for the company. Now, a lot of people, the majority of some people don't want to say things because they don't want to rock the boat. they're worried about they could lose their job. What am I going to do with my family? If I quit or get fired, they get all nervous. And that's where you need to put the brakes on and stop. Go to HR. You're better off if you don't want to leave the job. If you really love your job and you're excited to leave because it's something that's not of your own doing, that sometimes can really take its toll on an employee. So do I believe in extra interviews? Yes and no. Because I took the high road. A lot of people just take the high road, and you might have a problem, but you don't want to say it. And you're just going to say, listen, everything positive, or you didn't do one. And again, the reason I didn't do one is because I didn't believe I had to. Sometimes people believe that nothing's going to change, because sometimes in management, if you really think the higher up you go that you're really good friends with, you've known this person, colleague, for 10, 15 years, when it gets to the level up, sometimes that turns and goes back down, because when it comes to their job, all those years of that you thought sometimes get twisted, and that manager is going to do what they have to do. And it's just the way it works sometimes. But on a positive note, if you went to HR, you could stop that. You could go home and feel really good about yourself. You could just, love your job again, have passion for your job. If it's one bad boss, say something. Don't be afraid. If that person's giving you harassment that you don't want to be in that office, don't be afraid. Go to HR, or your manager. No manager should turn you down if you want to say something and say you're having issues with another employee. There's zero tolerance for that. If it's a good leader, that leader will go and take care of it for you. And then your stress level is just going to go down. And I want to give you some questions. This is my favorite part, because again, yes and no. What prompted you to begin searching for another opportunity, right? Some employees, you might ask, are you relocating? Are you going back to school? Do you feel the company isn't the right fit? The answer, you might be surprised. Some of them might be yes. That's what Chris says. From an HR perspective, I wish more people would be 100% honest during these exit interviews. I'm going to leave that up, because that's what my message I'm trying to get across. Because I'm going to take you back to a short story. We had a client that when I had taken over, he wanted to know what the problem was. He wanted exit interviews. I said, okay, we're going to send them. So we picked up the account. We sent the employees. Some of them were leaving. They were coming back saying they weren't giving breaks, rotating them around. Okay. Call the person, say, hey, listen, this is what they're saying. No way. We always give them correct breaks. Their wrists were hurting. Other people would come in, say, hey, Dave, they're not, there's 2 or 3 people that are very disrespectful. They yell at us because we're temporary people. Okay. One time, maybe 2 or 3, call back up. Listen, they're saying disrespectful. There's some full-time people. No way. Okay. Call again. People come up, same thing, quitting for that reason. My point there is, then we didn't even do the client anymore. He had dropped off, because if you want those exit interviews, if you really want them, then you want to accept the good for the bad, like Chris says right there. If you're honest, right? If I was to put on there that I had a problem with Rob, you know what? I can't take it anymore. We're stressed. I've come to you before. You haven't done anything. I'm looking for a new job. You get that excitement, but you didn't go to human resources. Why? Because it was the same with me. You don't want to rock the boat, but you got to change that. As a company, you need to promote. See, I'm even saying you need to promote the exit interview if it's done correctly. That is what the purpose, Rob's asking, what is the purpose? The purpose of it is to find out why people are leaving. So you could have problems with employees. You could have problems with a bad boss. You could have problems with all the time they're working, long stretch hours over the weekends, you can't deal with it. You have stress of your family at home, your kids. These are the kind of things that would be important to put down, because a good HR department might take those exit interviews, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and say, wow, bad boss, what is that? That's going to give them the key to go out and say to this person, hey, what's going on? People are leaving and your name is on there all the time. That's a good HR department, because they're the ones that really want to help you. Do not, if you don't have an HR director, I'm going to say that you don't feel comfortable. I mean, I joke around a lot, but they're there to help. They can stop retention. I expressed my issues a while back and stated the problems and issues I was facing. Female boss, base team manager, director. They were holding weekly meetings with me and was suggested I leave. They were resented, it was unfair, was not spearheaded the meeting, and the manager of which I had issues was tilting the purpose. Dave, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. If you have that one manager in HR, there's still other ones that you can speak with. There's a different management. Maybe you have another manager. You could reach out to another department. Maybe you could talk with them. It is unfair. There's a lot of things. Listen, if a company doesn't want you to work, if they don't want you to work, they're going to end you. They're going to manage you out. Now, short story, I'm not afraid to say that. I am not afraid to sit here and say that when you're being managed out. You've done everything correct. You've been with the company for a lot of years, and all of a sudden you leave. What happened? Right? So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, David, but you need to go, you have to have gone back to somebody else. That's my recommendation. I would have gone back to somebody else. And if you're not at fault, if you feel strong that it's not your fault, don't give in and talk to a leader, talk to a manager. They are surely going to help you. I guarantee it. Exactly. HR won't know if there's a problem if you don't come to us. Exit interviews can at least identify a pattern. Right? Wow, Chris, you're full of them tonight, but that's exactly what I'm saying here. If you don't, that's if they're used properly. You have to, if you don't say nothing, listen, I've had a lot of recruiters, I've had a lot of people that I've managed that don't put the real reason. They don't. They just want to be, I don't want any issues with the company. I want a good review. I try to tell people, here's my exit interview for my last company, right? Right now, I'll show the name, right? I didn't do it. All right. It's still sitting here because I look at it constantly before I do the show and I'm like, whew, would this have helped? It would have. It could have, as a personal story. But when you're at that point to where you don't know who you can trust, that's where it's wrong. If you can't trust your human resource department, they shouldn't be in human resources because they are there to help you. I'm going to say it over and over. If you're leaving your work because you're unhappy, you can't take it, you need to speak with them. And they have to go out. They're obliged. They have to go out and find out the reason. They're going to get back with you. They might have, listen, if you have to go to a meeting and confront with an HR director, they're very smart. They know how to handle everybody, what they're saying. They do. They know everything, what to say. They will see, and they have two sides of the story. Here's Chris is responding to Dave. I'm sorry you went through that. And there are some places with a toxic environment. It sounds like you had to deal with. And Dave, that's exactly what he's saying. I climbed over and above, went to the president. It's just too hard to answer that. But if you feel that you were right, then I feel sorry for you there. I apologize for that because you shouldn't feel that way. If you're getting let go for a certain reason, you're going to know why. You're going to know, hey, you get called in there, on your exit interview. What are you going to say? Well, I called off all the time. You know what I mean? So really look at that things. One of the questions, do you feel your manager gave you what you needed to succeed? This is another thing here, and I'm going negative and positive. If your manager doesn't do performance reviews, and that's another subject, performance reviews. How much time does a manager have to put into a performance review? Because if you don't do it, if you do the same generic one all the time, here, just sign this, you get a 2% raise, here, sign this. That was what it's like sometimes. But you can change that as a leader. You can change that. If you're watching the video and you're saying you're HR, you can change that feeling that you have. But you got to voice your opinion and do it professionally, especially if it's not your fault. That'll come back and get to that person that's causing the issues. Because Dave, maybe you had some issues that could have been, dug a little bit deeper with, and then maybe somebody could have figured it out. But, if you get angry, exit interviews is a way to do it. If you're angry, and just do it. I chose not to. I regret. I do. I sit back sometimes and say, what if I would have written the reason down that I left the company of almost 9 years? What if I would have said something that I had, or did I knew something was going on, would I still be there today? You got to live with that decision all your life. You got to live with that decision if you made the right choice or not, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You might be leaving because, they didn't give you one-on-one training. They didn't set you up for an exam, for success. Maybe, and that's where you could have brought up and sat with, like Chris says, if you would have sat with your HR department and said, listen, I feel that I should be, I've been here for 5-6 years. I get turned over for reviews, for better roles. And they're the kind of things, if you don't bring them up, HR doesn't know. And there is, even if you have one, let's say if you have one bad egg in HR, and usually they're bigger, I guarantee you those 3 other ones, they're going to really stick up for you also. So don't ever be afraid of, it's always like, well, this person's no good in HR, they won't help. Get that thought process out. Try to leave with that out of there. It doesn't get you anywhere on that. So another one was, what did you like best and least? Well, your majority of the time, some people just write the best. Listen, I loved working this job, but I'm not where I should be at now, and that's why I want to leave. I'm unhappy. All right. These are the kind of things that can save retention and can help retention if you would have really went to HR and your management. But if your management doesn't help you, then you go, And Chris is responding to David W. deserved to be with a company with better culture, a company who appreciates their employees because employees make the company. There again, Dave, and that's, I believe that's many more, Chris, due to the culture now since we've hit COVID. The culture wasn't really, I didn't really hear much about that. I didn't really pay attention. But now the work-life balance, and people are realizing, you know what? You got to say something. You need to say something, but do it in a professional manner. I chose not to. There's reasons why I chose. Again, do I regret? Yes. Would everything be the same today? I don't know. Because I always felt, this is the way I felt, and I'm just being honest. I felt nobody would put down the right reason, because you just don't want, again, you don't want to feel that pressure when they're going to call for reference, right? If you leave on a bad note, but if it's not your fault, that's what we're talking about. The next one, do you think your job has changed since you were hired? Listen, a lot of times you might be hired to do one task, but then you're going to be learning more tasks as you go. This question's saying, it wasn't in my job description. They're the kind of things that you need to bring up. Again, maybe they're doing it to teach you, Chris, when I left, I made mention to the main issues. Afterward, everyone stayed after contacting me saying no change has been made. And Dave, on that side of the note, here we go. Mr. and Perez, there we go. Yes, HR will listen and guide you. I'm going to leave that one up there because that's also important. This is what I'm talking about. They cannot be biased. Listen, a good HR director, I'm going to say it all the time, is there for you, not just the company. Because if they don't check into it, and confront it, they shouldn't be in HR. That's just a fact. We all go through HR scary. Well, I'm sorry. Maybe one day when they call in and say, hey, Dave, you're doing such a great job. Maybe I'll like that. But you say, oh, I smile. But seriously, it's a good team will listen to you. And again, that's going to save you and the company. Maybe you won't have to leave. Maybe they're going to fix the problem. But you don't know unless you put it on your review. And again, if you're afraid to do it, I can't give you that correct answer on that. Do you feel your achievements were recognized throughout your employment? There's another one. Recognition is crucial. I don't think anybody would have said that recognition, they don't enjoy that or something. You might see one of your coworkers constantly get in a meeting. Hey, that's great. That's great. But maybe as a leader, you should be watching out for that also. You should realize who you're calling out, what you're saying is a good job, because you want to encourage the next person to learn. You don't want to just say, hey, John, congratulations. Every morning, John, and then Cindy, all right? Call someone out again. Call another person out or pull them off, talk, see how their day's going. The littlest things can save right now in days like this: retention, because you tell the truth. I love this one. What could we have done differently for you to stay with your company? That was my, that was one of them right here. I know you got this one. What could we have done differently? Yeah. Did you share any concerns we discussed today with the company before deciding leaving? You know, you have to ask the questions. Mine was just an email. All right. And listen, we all have stories. I'm just giving you a personal story. Mine was sent to me in an email. Again, do I regret that? Yes. I wish I would have said what I knew and what the problems I would have, because I'm not sure. I'm happy where I'm at today, but you just never know what you would have been back then, if you would have stayed. But again, what could we have done differently? Some people just won't say it. But I can't believe I'm being on the positive side right now, but you need to say it. Again, like Chris said, if HR doesn't know the problem, they don't have nothing to fix. And then when you leave, you've left because you had stress. Maybe you had issues with your family. Maybe you needed to tell that manager. Maybe you were scared to go to that HR because they would let you go. Listen, a lot of things go through your mind when you're going through trouble at work, whether it's salary. Maybe did you go to somebody? Okay, the manager said we can't do that. Okay, you've gone through that chain of command. Maybe go to HR department and say, listen, can I talk to you? Open that door, one-on-one. Close the door. There's nothing wrong and nothing to be nervous about going to HR department, because if you do a lot of these, if you do the exit interviews correctly, they're going to notice a pattern, just like you said, pattern. Bad boss. You know what? That bad boss is gone because you just lost 3 good people. But if you don't tell them, you don't know. And that's the majority of the time is either with a bad boss or with family time. Here's recognitions to provide the employees with the tools they need to perform. I also recognize their effort and success. Right there. If you don't provide the tools as a manager and as a leader, you're setting your candidates up or your employees up for failure. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. If you're not continually to get them to grow, and I'm going to give you an example, again, just respectively, purposely my side here, is I always wanted to find that perfect lead, build that person up, a team, to where if as a leader you were to leave, you had somebody that could step up right there and take over. Just like that, because he provided the tools. Now, if you don't provide the tools, if you're just going to work every day and maybe you're like, wait, I've been here for 5 years, what do I do? What did I do wrong? I don't think the manager likes me. Years and years and years ago, you could do one-on-ones. In the military, I've told people numerous times, it was like you always said in the military, Sergeant, permission to speak. And in the military, you were allowed to speak. They said permission granted. So you could say anything you wanted. It didn't matter. You could swear, cuss up and down, permission to speak. But at the end, it was the answer what the sergeant said, and you had to do. So, but you know what? You voiced your opinion. And when that sergeant would walk away, maybe they would say to yourself, like, wow, maybe they're right. Maybe that team's right. Why did I do that? And here's one from Chris again. HR can do a better job making people feel more comfortable too. I build relationships with everyone. I don't want people to think when I come to talk to them, I didn't even have to write anything down tonight. This is what I'm talking about. Exactly right here. Because years ago, it was always the impression. You should not have the impression that HR scares the living hell out of you, because they still do today. And I don't care who you are. If you get called with HR, but like Chris said, maybe, change it up a little bit. And not everybody's bad, but if they don't know the problems, they can't fix it. So I think it's a balance. It's a real balance of, HR going out and not spending that time freaking recruiting. HRs didn't go to school for recruiting. Leave that for a recruiter. HR is for human resources to help people, because HR can slow down that retention. Right now, with like working from home, I don't even want to keep saying we're in this world now. We're not like we were. It's all coming back to normal. This is a time to reset the clock. Reset the clock. Ms. Ram says, Chris Heckman, yes. And, he's correct. Talk to HR. I'm going to drill this into you. So there was another couple questions. that I wanted to. This was just a basic, and I look at it now and I feel like I'm in elementary school when I read this exit interview. How long you been thinking about leaving? 1 month or less? 1 to 5 months? More than 5 months? How would you even answer that? To me, that question, is irrelevant. I really like to ask employees about their family. Correct. You walk out on the floor. We had a manager, which I loved at Home Depot. They always walked every day, every morning at the same time around that whole 1.2 million square foot warehouse. And they called it managing by walking. They would know what everything's going on through the whole day by just doing that one thing in the morning. They could see somebody, hey, how you doing? They could see somebody working hard. You had your face. You were out there with the people. And if you wanted to say something, that was your time to say it. It was nothing ever negative. But then by the end of the day, that's all it was. That's all it took. And you knew at 7:15 who would be coming around the corner. It was a routine, but it was really good. And I enjoyed that. Now I understand why he did it. I look back and say, if I was to do that again, that's what I would do. So the next one here, like reasons that you leave your work. Self-employment. Hey, listen, quality of supervision, conflict with supervisor, family circumstances, amount of work too great, dislike type of work. If you think about it, that's all in the same. That's almost all one or two things right there. If you can save one person from leaving, you know how much money that saves a company when one person's going to leave and you got to replace that person, train that person. And what's that? The good people leave, for a bad boss and for work environments. That's it. I mean, or if you're not, like I said, recognized. Some of these questions, I got a couple more. In regard to your supervisor, choose an option. Never, sometimes, usually, often, or always. I feel like I'm in school with this one. Demonstrated fair and partial treatment. Okay. Provided recognition, we talked about. Encouraged and listened to suggestions. That's the main thing, as I've learned through years, is listen. Oh, can I hear you now? No, there, I'm back. I must have hit that, Anne-Marie. Thanks. Yep, family. I clicked something on there. Thank you. But resolve complaints, problems, follow company policies and procedures, cooperation, communication with your branch or department, your new hire orientation, your in-branch on-the-job training. They're asking you this, did you like this stuff when you first started? Your benefit package, your base salary. And I'm going to end the show with this is, again, exit interviews are great if used properly. If you don't fill them out, HR doesn't know. If you're scared, if you're nervous, you're going to be leaving anyway. If you feel you're going to be leaving, you might want to put your 2 cents in there. Now you can write anything down that you want. They're going to know if you're upset. As a man, if you read somebody's, and if you read this and it was so negative to what they've told you in this, you would probably feel as a human resources person like, wow, if this is true and I didn't know about it, I guarantee you'd have that person right inside that office sitting in front of them, showing them this. You'd be saying, what's going on? What is this? Because if there's any amount of truth to this, that human resources department will take care of that. I guarantee that they'll do that fast and swift, just like that. They're going to take care of you on that. So again, last thoughts here is, if you don't want to do it, a lot of people say they want to take the high road. That's fine. Just take the high road, right? You leave, you start a new job. It keeps the waters calm. On the other side, if you really feel that you did not do nothing wrong, if you feel that you're being pressured to leave your job and it's no fault at your own, I strongly believe, and I'm going to say it one more time, go to your HR directors. So on that note, Anne-Marie, Ms. Your name is so hard, Ms. Perez. That's easy. Thanks a lot, Chris. They're in HR. We had one here from, Jordan. Thank you for coming on. David, again, thank you for sharing that story. I think that was great. And it just gives perspective on both people. And Rob, thanks so much. But everybody have a great night. And we will see you tomorrow.